Hey everyone, back with another video. And as promised from today's post in the community chat on the YouTube channel, I did promise that I would go over what I saw in today's price action and why I took my trade. All right, so just to recap from yesterday, we had that SMT between Thursday and Fridays and Wednesday's high, sorry. So that gave us our sales for yesterday. Coming into today, what we had, there was no significant cracking correlation on the higher time frame, and coming down to the lower time frame, and bearing in mind that we had NFP. So I find that when watching the news or watching what the news will do, it's best to be on a lower time frame if there's nothing significant on the higher time frame. Sometimes you'll get your confirmation. So for the setup prior to prior to the news, like immediately before the news or immediately after the news. But sometimes you can actually see what's going to happen before the news, meaning just by looking through the price action for the day, and that's what I saw today. All right, so if we look at what happened, right? Let's just zoom in a bit. Where are we? That's Thursday. So the day opened here. So these partitions are my quarters for the day. So 6 p.m. to midnight, midnight to 6 a.m., and 6 a.m. to midday, and midday to 6 p.m., right? So quarterly theory. I want to see, remember I told you yesterday I'm pulling out all stops to be able to see what price is really doing, and I'm adding all my confluences to tell me what will be happening as it relates to price action and what to do. And so I've combined a lot of, or quite a few, different concepts to really give me the true narrative for what's happening in the charts, right? So Asia put in a high, and Asia really just expanded and fast higher. So we had a really quick expansion to the highs. And then, all right, so this is something to note. Whenever you see this kind of expansion, just anticipate that when price is coming back into that range, price will do that gradually. It won't fall as fast as it went up. So you'll see this kind of price action, which is meandering and slow and really just um, choppy, right? So we had that. Price came back inside the range, and if I look at the 15-minute time frame, which is what I did, just to see what range we're working with for today, the range that I had used was this range, right? So if you notice, um, that was a dealing range coming into New York. And if we do the same, which is what you saw before I started speaking, I had deleted these just to show you a clean chart, but then adding back the information that I would have used to decipher what to do today, this morning. So if we do the same with the Australian dollar, we have that. That would have been the range. So this is the initial balance, so to speak, Asia's range, right? It includes the previous day's final quarter, but I'll tell you why I used just this, right? Let me tell you why. All right, so let's go back. I was watching the 5 minute time frame for most of the time. All right, so coming to the charts in New York, I usually come to the charts around 7 o'clock, and so sometime inside of the beginning of New York. And what I would have seen was what I just explained: the expansion, the rapid expansion, and then the slow. So rapid expansion upwards, slow expansion downwards, right? Back inside the range. All right, so this would have been that range. Price was trading inside of this range even up to New York, right? But what also happened was, if we look carefully, it was SMT or SSMT that initiated that move that brought us back to the low of Asia, right? So we had a higher high in London, took Asia's high, that's on the Australian dollar and on silver as well, right? So it took Asia's high, while on gold we failed. So that was the catalyst for that move downwards. All right, coming into New York, I was watching to see if price would have taken the lower end of the range on any of the assets. It did not, right? So when price got to the 25%, 75%, however you want to see it, so the quarter percentile of the range, we started to see something different happening, right? So remember, I told you also yesterday that I want to see how the hourly candles open in relation to each other starting at 8 o'clock. So comparing 8 to 7 and 9 to 8. All right, so on both silver and gold, price expanded lower. We had small SMT here. Price failed to trade below that low, but it traded below that low. But that's not what my confirmation or the confirmation I would have been looking for. That's not it. So if we look closer, what would have seen at the time this low was taken, which would have been, let's just take a closer look. The low was taken at 8 a.m. at the open of the new candle, right? So at 8 o'clock on the Aussie dollar, price was heading higher. Right, so remember we're trading candle by candle in the moment, and we have to make the decisions in the moment that we're trading. So wicked, then closed below the low, so that's 805. We had precision swing points being printed there as well, and price was expanding higher while price was expanding lower here. That was the first sign. Remember that news was at 8:30, so this was the news candle, right? So I believe I dropped to the 1 minute time frame after that because that's where I took my entry. And yes, I did take my entry just before the news. Reason being, again, we look at the range. Uh, we're in the discount end of the range. So at the 25.25, the quarter percentile of the range. And we had SSMT, we had a larger SMT and a smaller SMT in terms of how these closed and how price closed below the 7 o'clock candle. And then what just happened? I'll show you. Right, so remember at the time we are trading the 8 o'clock candle. So price had dipped the low, closed below on the 5 minute time frame. What I wanted to see after that now was this thing would just straighten up properly. So we had the change in state of delivery that took place here. Remember, this is a lower time frame. So I waited for price to close above that high. When price closed below and then retested, I believe my entry was right at 829 and prices took off after that. My initial target was that high of the range, and I believe I thought I had set my TPs from for all the entry, the positions that I had. I believe I ended up exiting somewhere here. All right, so messed that up a little bit, but still got a good trade. And I was thinking that price may have gone to the previous day's high, but it kind of tapered off into the end of the day after that. So here, and then just barely made it back above that high. So that was my trade, and the reason for taking the trade. That range low over here from Thursday was protected. None of the assets traded below the low, but we had a smaller cycle, two smaller cycle SMTs that gave us the indication that price was going to go higher. And based on where price was in terms of the range that it was trading inside of, we were in the discount range. We were at the daily open. That was another factor too. And yeah, that was that. That was that. I know some persons would think that's a bold move to be trading the news, but I mean, once you have a system and you've seen how the system works over and over and over, you know what the system is capable of, and you know that your confirmations work when you do get them, and you know what your setup should look like. You will be all right. And another tip that I can give you: any SMT that was created before would now become liquidity. So the other end of the range where that SMT was created, that created this move, now becomes liquidity and prime liquidity too. So you can trade from SMT to SMT, right? So that's another thing. So that was it. I wasn't flustered or anything like that. A lot of people become fearful when it comes to NFP, and I guess that comes from the fact that you're not sure what you're doing and all of that. And I've been there, not being um, boastful or anything like that. It's just time and experience and understanding yourself, understanding your system, understanding what you're doing, and being firm in your actions as you sit and watch the price action unfold. Right. So yeah, um, I hope you garnered something from this again, and look forward to seeing what next week brings and how the war influences the charts again, which in maybe is a thing that could have caused not none of these lows to have been taken today, and maybe we're now looking to go back higher. I don't know. What I can tell you is that I'll trade what I see on a daily basis, not necessarily marrying a bias or listening to anybody else's opinion or yeah, anything like that. Just trading what you see on the day that you're trading and at the time that you're trading. All right, so hope you all have a good weekend. Study, study, study. I'm always studying no matter what. I'm looking to improve on my edge. So I encourage you to do the same. Stay safe, and we'll talk again next week. Thank you, and goodbye.